So in this module, we're going to be talking about places that you should and shouldn't go out to eat at. Because a lot of places will cook with inflammatory oils. This is why after you have a meal, you'll feel that phlegm in your throat. If that's happening, whatever you ate is not good for you. So I'm going to go over a couple obvious ones here, and this ties into the 50 brain cell challenge, where the ingredients that are in these foods cause you to fail the 50 brain cell challenge. We're just going to go to bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. So, for instance, they even write on here like, this is just nasty. You should never consume this. This is not real food. This is technically the foods, clarified butter, salt, bacon, pasteurized cheese, folded egg, and biscuit. And if you've ever seen those eggs come from a shipment, they're pretty gross. So, whenever you're looking at the calories on here, so it's basically 460 calories of not food, but they like to call it food. And somehow it's being given to people to eat. So I'm just confused. Anyways, when you're looking at this, big takeaways here. There is a lot of research, which let me show you really quickly, that you're more than welcome to dive into with a simple Google: high salt effects on gut microbiome health. And you can see that dietary salt can harm the delicate balance of the ecosystem in our gut microbiome. And over the past year of testing gut microbiome health, we can say that a majority of people are missing their keystone species. There's a lot of issues with alpha and beta diversity. And we'll just leave it at that and let you do your own research, because that is what this is designed to do. It's to help you educate yourself so you never have to rely on anyone else ever again. So just based on the fact, not even looking at ingredients alone, a lot of fast food restaurants have high salt, which means you have 58% of your daily value of sodium from one sandwich. That's your daily value. So throughout the entire day, you've just eaten 58% of your sodium in a day right there. Now, if somebody consumes a bag of chips or they eat out again, if you do this and then you go to Chipotle, you're over your sodium needs for a day. And I don't know about you, but we're all here to teach you about the gut microbiome health, because that's the beginning. You are what you eat. And in America, it seems like we have a lot of mental illness. So are we consuming mental illness? I don't know. Anyways, that's the main indicator right there that this is not a good food. 58% of your daily value of sodium. Now, one of the really big things that you want to pay attention to here is oxidization of your cholesterols. And this is where you can look. Once again, let me show you first. So if we just do, once again, a basic Google, this is the part where you don't even have to dive into books and research papers. You can if you want to be the person that's super educated on these topics. I prefer it. You will see some modules down below where we give you book reviews. But right here, just on leading cause of death in America, you can see heart disease is number one. So now I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that these foods promote heart disease. I'm just simply saying that you should learn about cholesterol and sugar when you consume them together. So once again, I'm keeping this extremely basic with just basic Googling. I know the research behind these things, so I'm just showing you with basic Googles how you can say, okay, this seems pretty interesting. So when you eat too much sugar, your liver makes the LDL while lowering the amount of HDL in your body. So which one's good, which one's bad? So if you're consuming sugar, you're making more LDL and you're lowering your HDL. And then just, is LDL bad? LDL cholesterol is sometimes called the bad cholesterol. So high levels of LDL raise your risk for heart disease and stroke. So right here you can see sugar raising your risk for heart disease and stroke because it's lowering the HDL, which is the good cholesterol. So high levels of HDL mean you're not going to be at risk for stroke and heart disease. Low levels or high levels of LDL, heart disease. So when you're looking at cholesterols and sugars and the binding, this is bad. So when you would go out to eat somewhere, you have to be aware that you're consuming a bunch of oils. You have to be aware that you're consuming too much sodium. You have to be aware that you're consuming cholesterol and sugar at the same time. So when we start to look at like all of the problems that are happening in our world, fast food restaurants, I would say, could be a possible cause of a lot of our issues. So that's just the nutritional facts. And then you got 2 grams of dietary fiber over here, which is ridiculous because 2 grams of dietary fiber, where's our cholesterol in this? Or no, where's our carbohydrates? So 39 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of dietary fiber. You're looking at a total of about 37. That is going to spike your glucose levels. And if you're following the choo-choo train over here, you realize that high sugar, anxiety, brain-derived neurotrophin factor, anxiety goes up, BDNF goes down. Consuming fast food is not good. So now when we go into the ingredients, if you're following the 50 brain cell challenge, this is a straight fail. let me do the math real fast. Give or take, there's 53 ingredients in this meal that you're about to consume. That is an immediate fail for the 50 brain cell challenge. You have deleted all of your brain cells allotted in the day, and you have officially failed the 50 brain cell challenge. So we would never consume this food again in our entire life. It's not good to eat. So let's move on to some other ones. Now, let's say, for instance, that you're a parent out there and for some reason you feed your kids Happy Meals, which I ate these all the time growing up. So this Happy Meal has 225 calories over here, the nutritional summary. It has a low amount of sodium. That's not bad. We've got some potassium over here. Potassium is really hard for a lot of people to get. The nutrients in here, based on 225 calories, pretty vague, small. Not 31 carbohydrates to a kid. It might be a lot for a meal. And then let's see, we got cholesterol 4%, so relatively low, right? That's like, oh no, it's not a lot of food going on here. But then we go into the ingredients. Fail, straight fail. Like there should not be like if you're eating chicken, the ingredients should be chicken, not canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, hydrogenated soybean oil, so the way that you read this, by the way, vegetable oil is how they define it, vegetable oil, and then the parentheses is what makes that vegetable oil. So when you look at enriched flour, this is what makes enriched flour. All of these ingredients right here. So this one item is actually a mix of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things. This vegetable oil here is a mix of canola, corn, sorn, and hydrogenated soybean oils. So let's give you some information on hydrogenated oils. So I just wouldn't consume this based on the ingredients, but check out the hydrogenated oils. So once again, we're not leaving Google here because I want you to understand that if you start to look into the research and you start to read the books, you're going to probably come to the same conclusion. If you do not come to the same conclusion, please let us know what you found that we were wrong. So hydrogenated vegetable oils have been shown to harm heart health. So we have some hydrogenated vegetable oils right here, and we should never be consuming those. So this right here, once again, fails the 50 brain cell challenge. There's vegetable oils in the French fries. There's vegetable oils in the chicken nuggets. This is not good. So now when you're looking at other fast food restaurants, because we're not going to discriminate on one here, you're going to notice a majority of them across the board are always high sodium. Once again, why would they have high sodium? If you look at salt, it plays a role in enhancing the flavor of the food. So when you're eating a chemical cocktail, how do we make that chemical cocktail taste better? Let's put some salt on it. So now we can see that high salt affects gut microbiome. We can see that there's salt enhancing the flavor of foods. We can see that they have hydrogenated vegetable oils. They're lowering our HDL. They're raising our LDL. There's sugars messing up everything inside of our body. So when you start looking at fast food, you should never consume it ever again. There's no you will get to a point in your life where you will never eat these things ever again, because once you understand the difference between eating healthy for like 5, 6, 7 months and then trying something that you used to eat and feeling how terrible it actually makes you feel, now you get the chance to experience, whoa, I always actually felt that terrible eating those foods. And now that I'm healthy, I can actually, for once in my life, tell the difference. So for me personally, I was putting salt on everything. Like if somebody made a steak, that steak was covered in garlic salt. And by the way, all of these foods that I'm showing you, I ate on a daily basis. The whole reason we created the 50 Brain Cell Challenge was because I was probably eating about like 500 ingredients a day. So let's continue. And something to remember is that vegan, like people that are actually vegan, it's not how to order vegan at McDonald's in the USA. Like you just don't order McDonald's. Just because it doesn't have animal products in it doesn't mean it's an acceptable thing to consume. It's like saying beer is vegan, so I can have it. No, you should just not drink it ever because it's not good for you. So let's see if we can find some healthy restaurants out there. Now, if you're like me, I live in the middle of nowhere, and any place that even had vegan options no longer has vegan options because nobody eats it. So, going out to eat, I would say that around me, off the top of my head, I know there are maybe like a coffee shop. Some coffee shops are definitely going to have some healthy food at the end of the day. I mean, the bread they might be using might not be the best bread, but if you literally need to eat out, like I can't tell you what book this is from, but there's a doctor that said if you have to choose between eating something that may not be healthy or not eating and waiting until you can feed yourself, you should always wait to feed yourself so you know what you're consuming. And at the end of the day, there's going to be plenty of things out there in the world where people are like, "Oh, people eat McDonald's and they live good, healthy lives all day long." Yeah, but the quality of the life that they're living is not as high as the quality of the life that you could live after you start optimizing your life. Like, I would say that my entire life, it felt like there was a 500-pound elephant sitting on top of my brain. And anytime I've ever wanted to change something about my life, I just, for some reason, I just couldn't. I must have been dumb. And I contribute every change that I have to starting to eat healthier, fasting, paying attention to different mechanics that go into health that you're going to learn in the program down below. But the whole goal here is to just help you understand that when you go out and you decide to eat, that you should be aware of the foods that you're going to consume. Let me show you another restaurant that's absolutely ridiculous. And yep, sorry, no more cheesecake. At least from the Cheesecake Factory, unless you want roughly, I don't know, 40 to 50 ingredients in your cheesecake. And funny enough, though, you're going to learn marketing in this program. Right here above my head, you can see the Facebook. You can see the Facebook and the TikTok pixel right there. That's great. But guess what? No chatbot, and I don't like companies like this, so I don't ever talk to them. But one of the fun things here is that you realize they have a really good marketing strategy. Side note. Cheesecake, they're in these well-known areas. There's always a lot of foot traffic walking around. And you have to ask yourself, if somebody goes out to eat, how do I get a bag in their hand? How can I take somebody that's at the mall and put a bag in their hand so they walk around the mall with my bag with my company? So what they do is they give you bread before you eat, which fills you up. Then they give you a little bit of a bigger portion size. Most people can consume that portion size. So an effective marketing strategy is to just give you bread, which is cheap, by the way. It's not the best bread. They give you the bread, you eat the bread, you can't finish your meal. They give you a bag, they give you plastic, bam, bag in hand, walking around the mall. Have a great day. Thanks for being an advertising billboard for us. And that would be from the book called Contagious, and that is something you would refer to as brand residue. We're going to put that bag all over your hands. So that'd be an example of brand residue. Another example of brand residue, maybe next time you're driving tomorrow, is pay attention to those license plates or the sticker from the dealership that you see. Because even though you might not be looking at it or reading it, your subconscious mind is picking up on all of it. Because somebody says, "Where should we go eat?" Bam, you saw a cheesecake bag right there. You're probably going to go eat at the Cheesecake Factory. So now, once again, we're going to pause here and just look at logic for a second. Current dietary guidelines for sodium recommend consuming no more than 2,300 milligrams a day. That's 1 teaspoon of salt. So if you have predisposed high blood pressure, 1,500 milligrams. We go over here and we look at one item right there. 2,500, that's your Korean cauliflower over here. 2,570 milligrams of sodium. You start scrolling down the ladder. What's the biggest number on all of these restaurants? It's always the sodium. There's tons of sodium. 3,000, 3,000, 3,400. I think 3,450 is the highest, going once, going twice. 5,020. This is ridiculous. So you could literally just accept the fact of going out to eat is going to just absolutely disrupt your gut microbiome in so many ways, shapes, and forms just on the amount of sodium that's in the foods. But then you have to layer in the amount of ingredients that are in the foods. All right, well, it's extremely impossible to find the ingredients for the Cheesecake Factory, but I can tell you if you go look it up and you find it yourself, you're going to say, yep, that fails the 50 brain cell challenge. You definitely shouldn't do that anymore. If you want to, you can, but I highly advise, once again, not going out to eat. Now, this is pretty awesome for Chipotle. It says 53 real ingredients. Now, do you ever notice when you go in Chipotle that they're cooking their food on a grill? They're just charring the out of meat on the grill, right? And then you've got your chicken here. You've got your beef somewhere else on this list of stuff. But let's think for a second. They're cooking meat on a grill. So now here's a fun one. This is why I avoid these. And this is something that the dietitian actually put me onto. And I was like, wait a minute, you're supposed to use lemon? What? So there's studies, and once again, this is probably going to end up coming down to some sort of gene variant. The same thing with the CYP1A2 gene in caffeine metabolism for people that have it. Don't die from drinking your caffeine because you're increasing your risks of heart disease. And if you don't have the gene, then enjoy consuming the out of caffeine and don't get addicted to it. So I'm assuming there's a lot of incongruous research here, but two studies show that people who eat red meat, but not vegetarians or vegans, but not vegetarians, or people who eat only white meat, such as chicken. So this is where it goes in like red meats versus white meats. So like your salmons and your chickens versus your cows or your steaks which are the same thing. I'm just that bad at understanding how like meat works in the world because I just don't eat it, so I don't really pay attention. But like, yeah, steak and burgers thing come from the same animal. Yeah, we got that. So produce more of a chemical called TMAO, which has been shown to raise heart disease risk. Now let's play devil's advocate for a second and assume that this is real, right? So if we eat a burger from wherever, we're eating our bread, which is our sugars. We're eating our cheese, which is going to have crappy oils in it. We're eating our burger, which is cooked in crappy oils. We're having our burger cooked on a grill that definitely doesn't use lemon. And then we're producing our TMAO, we're oxidizing our cholesterols, and I'm just going to stop there because I could literally just talk about this all day long. So yeah, just stop. If you go out to eat, please go to a place that you understand what the ingredients are being used. So when you're looking at Chipotle, okay, awesome, right? They use 53 real ingredients. That's great. So let's move on. But if you would like to lower your TMAO levels, you just wouldn't be consuming like your full fat dairy products. So they're like, let's sprinkle the cheese on your food. We're looking at whole milk, egg yolk, and then cream cheese, butters. The best part is both processed and unprocessed red meats. So, like, honestly, the worst version of meat you can ever consume in your life is lunch meat. It's bad. And let me show you. Now, once again, this is one of those things where if you're a conspiracy theorist, you're going to say, oh, cancer.gov is not real. It's literally the National Cancer Institute in our world. So if this is telling us something that makes no sense, I mean, I don't know. Numerous studies, and this is from 2021, so we're just, it's a year ago, almost a year ago at this point, beyond a year ago. Numerous studies have linked a diet high in red meat and processed meat to colorectal cancer. But it has been unclear how eating cheeseburgers, hot dogs, and lamb chops can fuel the development of the disease. So, eating cheeseburgers, hot dogs, and lamb chops. Because before it was talking about hot dogs absolutely just being like these just nasty, weird smoothies of gugh. So, if you haven't learned about your group of carcinogens yet, actually the night shift working overnight has been classified as a carcinogenic. And let me double check to make sure that that's actually true. Like I said, this is a new updated research paper. I haven't looked at this one yet. I remember rereading this one before, and it looks like they bumped hot dogs off of it in some way, shape, or form. But nobody should be eating hot dogs anyways. That's not even real food. But when you're looking at your carcinogens right here, we open this up. Same thing. I'm doing everything on Google because I just want you to go dive into this yourself. But just Google in general, starting at the top. This is an EU website, so obviously in EU they're not trying to murder you like in America. But group 2A, probably carcinogenic to humans. So now let's stop for a second. If there's research out there that says it's probably carcinogenic, but we're not sure, and you have like a billion other options to choose from, why would any human choose the possibly carcinogenic option? I don't know. And that research paper leads us to an updated research paper that says, why is colorectal cancer rising rapidly among young adults? So this is back to the gene expressions right here where they're talking about inherited factors. So like basically if we want to stop these things from happening, like imagine if you were able to identify the issues in your genes and find out, okay, I'm pre-exposed to dying from this based on my family tree. That's why doctors usually should keep the same doctor, even though doctors nowadays, everybody just seems to hate them. Some doctors are good, but if you read the book Why Everybody's Sick and I Know Why, you're going to realize, okay, naturopath doctors are actually the ones that are going to be able to help me with the stuff that I need help with. And the other doctors that are an MD, the only reason they're accredited is because like Rockefeller type stuff. But please read that book, check out the information. Caused by inherited factors. So like inheritance. So for instance, like my gene test, right? I was depressed. Now, like growing up, like I was really depressed. Like plenty of times I just figured, yeah, what's the point? But anyways, interleukin 6 cytokines, right? I'm pre-exposed to having higher levels of inflammation in my body, right? That is genetic. That was a pass down for me. So like for instance, think, would one person seek depression while another would not seek depression? If you're genetically exposed to possibly having depression versus somebody not having depression, it comes into the point like, would you be willing to eat against the developing diseases for the chance that when you decide to have a child, that telomere screen cap upon conception is passing down a better gene variant to your child? So in theory, like 500, maybe 1,000 years of us actually paying attention to the foods that we're not supposed to be consuming and causing mutations in our genes and passing those mutations down to children that are slowly getting worse. I mean, it all makes sense, right? Like if you knew something ran in your family, why would you not eat in the opposite direction of it? So when you decided to reproduce, that the child has a better quality of life. Now, right here in this one, this is an obvious one. It says several studies, overweight and obese people, higher chances of death. Yes, we know that. That's hip to weight ratio. So BMI is not as real as the hip to weight ratio. So the bigger the belly, the smaller the brain. You can also Google that research. Have fun at that one. It's just going to tell you about, like, the more visceral belly fat you have, the less brain function you have. So is it better to be skinny? I don't know. You tell me. So now it's jumping into gut microbiome health right here. And if you want to read a precursor book before you decide to go to this link right here, gov.news and the Cancer Current, Cancer Rising in Younger Adults, before you decide to go here, this right here, it says, surprisingly, gut bacteria is affected by the food and the chemicals we eat, drink, and breathe. So if you check out a book called Sicker, Fatter, Poorer, it's a really good book. It's going to talk about it's just completely disrupting your entire body. Like, society is built to disrupt you. This right here definitely raises the need for the gut microbiome test to be able to not have a broken gut microbiome wall and just letting inflammation run amok in your body. And if you want to learn more about inflammation and what happens in your body when you become inflamed or you have some issues going on, you're going to read the book An End to Illness. And that's going to teach you about some things whenever your body's like, hey, that's bad. We need to go kill it. World War III. And then it demolishes everything in its path. It's like taking an antibiotic. That antibiotic's not like, oh, are you a good bacteria? Yeah, okay, we won't destroy you. There's the bad guy. No, they just wipe you out. So I apologize. I just wanted to look at this research paper right here, but it's pretty interesting points on this. It's kind of going into like genetic variants, but my big takeaway on this one is looking at like the diet, the gut bacteria, and inflammation. So we have some gene variants inside of a person that would make them pre-exposed to having these issues. However, diet does play a role. And I'm not going to keep diving into this rabbit hole because I want to keep this video pretty much on like what we should and shouldn't be eating. But it says right here, so they pegged it as accomplices in the growth and spread of colorectal cancers, and some may affect how cancer treatments work. Then gut bacteria is influencing the effectiveness of type of immunotherapy. I mean, we're talking that there's like even research papers out there that go into people that are on chemotherapy, and if they're fasting, they're somehow keeping their healthy cells alive. And my favorite thing here on this one, this is where once you start getting into gut microbiome research, it's relatively new. So you'll realize that a lot of people are linking the gut microbiome to many issues in life. I would say with this, check out the microbiome diet book. That's going to give you a good bit of information. I can tell you the PDF that comes with that book. Good luck finding any of those foods that they suggest in your local grocery store. Most of them just don't exist in any normal grocery store. So if you have a specialty food store near you, you may be able to find those foods. So on this one specifically, I would say talk to our dietitian or DYOR and decide what you want to do in your life. We're all going to die anyways, but the way that you live your life while you're alive can be extremely amazing, depending on the diet that you eat. Like I can tell you, I ate garbage food, all the foods I tell people not to eat, I used to eat. And then when I changed, oh my God, whole change of reality. But even on like Harvard Health. So these studies are everywhere all over the internet. So on this one specifically, do your own research. Talk to somebody, get a colonoscopy. If you're worried about health issues, get tests. Don't just magically live through life and then be like, oh no, I'm feeling ill and sick and I think I'm going to die. And then you go get a test and they're like, yeah, you're dying and it's too late. That's a reality. That will happen for a lot of people. Doesn't have to happen for you. There's another good book that I'm going to leave you with here. It's called An End to Illness, where there's tests that you can actually get that tell whether or not you're going to have issues in the future. Now, these are preventative care and preventative measure. They may not be covered on your insurance, but they're extremely important. So find a doctor that's trying to find the problem before the problem becomes really big and scary, like eating fast food, big and scary. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing that's probably the most important part of all of this: advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. Now, this is something, this is healthline.com. It's a blog. There's a lot of citations and research for a lot of these, usually from PubMed. You just click that one right there. You're going to be able to learn everything you need. So, AGEs, for instance, remember, AGE production. Advanced glycation end products are harmful compounds that are formed when protein and fat combined with sugar in the bloodstream. So this is where you start to think to yourself, well, if I'm eating things that have cholesterol and the sugar, and then the fat, then the protein, then the sugar, and then I'm having AGE productions happen in my body, But then we go over to like Chipotle and we see, okay, 53 real ingredients, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, if you're eating the burrito wrap itself, there's some carbohydrates, there's some proteins, there's some fats, there's a lot of different foods. Now, one of the things I can say that I've done for quite a while is I eat within a very short window, which a lot of people are knowing this as OMAD, which means you eat one meal a day, you're eating within a specific window. This means that if you decide to do this, take it very slow, like edge into it on months and months of time. Because it's going to be very hard when you're doing this once a day. You might get constipated. You
And the
might not have your
video
calories
definitely
right.
cut
You might
off
not have your
audio.
dietary
So just
fiber right.
finishing
You
up
might be
here,
missing the
there's a lot
nutrients.
of
There's
different
amino
things that
acids
go
that go
into
into it.
really
There's
creating a diet plan
whole
that makes sense. And the whole purpose of this video was to just help you understand that like fast food is not real food. And the big things you're looking for here are like sodium, so SODIUM. The sodium on a lot of these foods is way too high. You're going to be mixing sugar and cholesterol, so you want to be paying attention to like the LDLs, the HDL, and a lot of this has to do with diet. Like heart disease is the number one leading cause of death in the world. So when you're looking through your foods, you really truly ultimately want to be paying to the ingredients. If something has more than, 8 ingredients in it, it's probably bad. And the reason I say this is because if you're actually making general meals, like let's say that you decide to eat salmon, you use salt, use lemon, you use garlic, this is like one of the meals on the 50 Brain Cells Challenge. So salmon, salt, garlic, and then you could use ASPARAGUS. Probably spelled that wrong. Asparagus. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. We use coconut oil. There's 6. So as you slowly start to recognize that the foods that you consume, they're just filled with terrible ingredients, that's when you can start to realize that shifting away from those foods causes more of a balance in your body. I mean, I can't really contribute much of anything to my life that wouldn't be revolving around food. It was absolutely changing my diet that changed everything for me. I was already exercising. I mean, yeah, I didn't meditate and other things, but once I started eating healthier, it just all changed. It's like a switch flipped in my brain. So, the big reasons we create the words like, mind your gut and keep your mind, or wake up, don't eat, let your glycogen deplete, just kind of goes into really supporting the fact that like breakfast isn't even like a real thing. It's marketing. It was created, puts more pork and eggs in front of people. So there's a reason for everything out there. So whenever you're looking into things, really truly try to find out like what's the actual science behind this. Like, was this created because it's actually beneficial to human beings? Or weirdly enough, since this was created, did type 2 diabetes and obesity just year over year keep increasing? These are some of the questions that I want you to be able to find the answers to yourself. That's why if you just do some of the basic Googles and start there and look into the research like DYOR, do your own research, find your own conclusions, and recognize that knowing these things are better than not knowing these things. Like, for instance, just based on basic Googling research, you can tell that a majority of fast food is absolutely not good for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next video, we're going to be going a little bit more in depth, showing you some other things, maybe going over some healthy options. I know for a fact that if you go towards like vegan type places, like, I mean, they've got like just bread and avocado toast with like tomatoes on it. So if you're not living in the middle of nowhere and you're in a bigger city, you're going to have a better time finding food options. And when it comes to making your own foods, there's a lot of really good recipes out there and stuff tastes really good. But the biggest thing is it takes time to create those foods and it costs a lot more money. So if you're not in the reset button program, we teach you how to make the money to be able to afford the foods so you can go pretty much make and eat whatever you want. There's no restriction on your diet based on income anymore, which makes it a lot more fun because now you can try stuff. You can go buy $90 of vegetables and cook some stuff with your partner. That's the whole goal. So biggest takeaways from this video: learn about like glycation, learn about AGEs, learn about your cholesterol binding to your sugars, understand sodium levels, and then really just pay attention to what you're eating. Because if you are what you eat, and since we're having a lot of obesity problems and mental health problems in America, does that mean we're eating mental health problems and eating obesity? Because if we are what we eat and we're becoming these things from eating these things, then that must mean that these things are probably a cause. And that's where it gets into like causation. Just please, please, please do your own research, read the books, check out the information, and find your own answers. But always try it once. Talk to your doctor, talk to your PCP, talk to somebody smarter than me. But I literally would read a book, read research papers, and I'd be like, well, let's try it out. And it changed my life forever. So I will see you in the next video.